Two. What's up, everybody, and thank you for joining me on this impromptu stream regarding critical social justice. I'm here with Irate Prostate Man. What's up, man?
What's up, man?
And
Say hi to all the fan bots out there.
and who's always been with me on this short series that we've done, this would be technically episode 3, but I'm gonna call it 2.5 because this is not gonna be a 3-hour stream or even a 2-hour stream. I'm hoping we keep it down to an hour. But Atima, say what's up.
Hi, guys. I'm not even supposed to be here today. I have no idea what they're talking about. They pulled me in like 3 minutes ago, y'all, and I'm
she didn't actually watch it, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be pertinent to the situation. So there's actually 2 reasons I wanted to do the stream. First off, before Irate even shared this Bret Weinstein Black Intellectual panel to me, before he even shared it to me, I was in this other like Twitter nonsense DM with some social justice warrior. And that social justice warrior, when this other person, not me, shared the stream to them and said, you should watch this and realize there's a lot more opinions out there other than your critical fucking race theory bullshit, which me and Atima have been trying to deconstruct in our streams recently. And then that person's response, so I actually preempted his response and I said, well, these black people all suffer from false consciousness and they aren't actually good representatives of the black identity group. And then in parentheses, he said, AKA Coons or Uncle Tom's. And the person replied back and said, what? I can't believe, what, is Thomas Sowell in there? You're just using these people as white shields for your racism. Dismissing them outright. And I was like, my response was, what you just said was actually more racist than my sarcastic response to what they said. Because you denied them agency to the point where you say they're just slaves of white racists and not actual individual thinkers in and of themselves.
Yeah, which is insulting to every one of them.
Oh yeah,
these are accomplished people. The Kamal Lowry, I think is his last name. He's just graduated from Columbia, and I mean he's been on. He's been all over news. He does this libertarian podcast called The Fifth Column. He's a co-host of that.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a very smart guy. These are So these are.
They're way smarter than any of us.
Right.
Whew. Yeah, well, obviously, because I think most of the world. But anyway, well, at least speaking for myself, I've done so many fucking drugs. I'm still shocked at the whole, white shield statement. I'm trying to digest that. Sorry. Still trying to digest that because that is so fucking incredibly racist. That entire line of thinking is horrifyingly like, oh my god, yeah.
Well, it goes back to, this is something, Timmy, you would know very... I mean, you would understand this very explicitly based on what I've shown you about critical race theory. And that... everything that doesn't fall within their paradigm, their out is you're a racist if you don't believe it. And part of what that stream, even the stream we watched did, is you even had one person that was on there that disagrees with this whole Ibram X idea of you're either a racist or an anti-racist. She actually works with people in the inner city and says, if we expose these kids to these ideas, it would just make it worse. Right? Specifically people kids that have fathers that are incarcerated.
Yes.
But she also was not necessarily opposed to the idea of reparations if done correctly. So there was actually a broad spectrum of ideas throughout all of this. Even Bret Weinstein, I don't agree with him, especially on a lot of his economic arguments. Because a lot of what he said, and Irate can attest to this, but he feels like things are kind of like a zero-sum game. in which some groups, which he puts in class, are hoarding all the opportunity against other groups. Which the worst, yeah. So the worst part is I don't necessarily disagree with him, but I disagree with him from where he's coming from, because he's coming from this idea that we can have some sort of command economy to make all this equal.
Literally, all these people have done is remove the term "the Jews" for the group that they're blaming.
That actually came up in the conversation.
But the rhetoric,
Weinstein's a Jew, so.
Well, the rhetoric is verbatim. Right. Listen to it; it's verbatim.
Yeah.
Like, if you've read any of the stuff they promoted and printed at the time, it should make your head spin, because the only difference is now, instead of the Jew, it's the white man.
But you're talking about Nazi Germany, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The pre Kristallnacht propaganda that was going out.
Yeah.
The Judenrat, the pamphlets, they're all over the internet, man. If but yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's Ein Minuten bitte.
Ein Minuten.
Real quick, Object of Hate says, is White Shield the black equivalent of White Ally for the anti-racist camp? I don't, yeah. I mean, it seems very similar. That was the first time I ever heard the term White Shield was on Twitter today, by the way. I've heard similar sentiments anytime you bring up black scholars. And I do want to say, so the only reason somebody like Bret Weinstein would feel that I need to invite a bunch of black people to talk about this issue isn't because white people decided that they need other black people to justify their opinions. It's completely the opposite. It's the fact that people from this critical race theory perspective have decided that the color of your skin matters when it comes to the opinions that you have. So inherently it creates a contradiction when you can get 9 people with very well-respected credentials. I mean, almost all of them were graduates from esteemed colleges expressing their disdain for critical social justice and not even being right-wing. Like, they weren't all Thomas Sowells. In fact, I only think the person in the upper left, which I think was Glenn Loury, right? He was the only person that I think was expressing more of a Thomas Sowell sentiment. Everybody else had a much more... I mean, I'm going to use the word nuanced, even though I fucking hate that word because it's usually abused. But you would actually have to listen to them to understand their opinion. You could not pigeonhole them as a Thomas Sowell replica.
Well, no, I don't think you can. Even Thomas Sowell may be an influence, but you're never going to see that man replicated. That would insult him. I watched a piece. What was I watching earlier today? And somebody had clips of it in their video. It might have been no, it wasn't. Who was it? I watched a video earlier today, and somebody had put in clips of Thomas Sowell, who's like the madman of debate. I don't know if you guys have ever seen him do anything, but it is fucking incredible. The man is just hands down one of the most brilliant people I have ever heard speak. And he was talking about how a lot of these concepts are incredibly demeaning to minorities and black people especially, because the underlying premise is that if you're poor, you can't get out of being poor, period, no matter what, simply because there's only a certain amount of success that is possible. But that's not true either, because success is subjective.
Yeah, and I really agree with Thomas Sowell on that. One thing they brought up is this is a point that Bret Weinstein made that I think is worth debating, even though I'm going to disagree with him on the separate part. When you're actually trying to figure this out and try to sort this out and deal with the actual individuals that might be a part of this systemic racism, as you would say, you would not treat them and teach them these ideas of systemic racism. You would teach them about individual responsibility and how to make choices in your life that are best to benefit you. So the other side of that, he was saying, is like, well, if I'm a policymaker and I believe that government can kind of command direction and influence the direction of not only individuals, but different groups, he would have a different opinion, and I would disagree with Bret on the second part. But I liked how he distinguished between those two concepts.
So the Bret, the one thing that he was talking about was there was a hoarding of opportunity.
Yeah, that's where I totally disagreed with him.
Yeah, it's like, okay, dude. And really, I think what the older dude, who I totally identify with, that dude is really me in about 5 years. Okay, his name is Glenn Lowry, man, and the dude is just like, this is a systemic thing. Coleman Hughes identified, not Coleman Hughes. I confuse him with John McWhorter, who's a professor of linguistics at Columbia University. But he was saying that that all this was was systemic within society itself now. Okay, it's not just a black thing; it's a society thing, right? And then he started pointing out how white people are just as affected by these similar mindsets. It's just that there's a concerted movement in the direction for some type of equity, from the black side of it. And and he said that one thing I found interesting is that between 1960 and 1980, there was this huge explosion within the black community, or destabilization of the family unit, and how that was is systemically reverberated through the following generations, right?
Yeah, and also I think almost everybody there they were talking about it because they blamed it basically on, I think, what would be the Black Liberation Movement. And what they said is this conformity to some sort of black identity was important, and they forced people into it. And I think almost everybody in the stream actually agreed that was not a good way of looking at things.
Right. But they agreed it was a thing too, right?
Well, no, they believed that the Black Liberation Movement was a thing, but they disagreed that what they were promoting, as far as this idea that there's this certain thing about, like, you need to hold your black identity like close to you, and having this black identity means X, Y, and Z. They said that right. wasn't a good way of looking at things.
Well, yeah, the whole idea behind the United States, is assimilation to some degree.
Teddy Roosevelt, he historically was known for being avidly against hyphenating anything with American. Nothing but being an American mattered. He didn't care about your race. He said so specifically. He said all Americans. Yeah, he talked about it at length.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very much against it. It has never really been a concept that Americans have held well to.
By the way, real quick, I want to address the chat. We have very important comments by Sinrise where he says bitches, and that was it. That's all he said. And then we have Leaf Wentz, which I just gave admin rights, which is saying, meanwhile, in the Chizza, with their human resource camping site, organ harvesting, literally not star C star. I don't know what that means.
Literally
but
Nazi.
I wanted to read. Yeah, literally. Oh God, thank
Nazi. You. Yeah, Yahtzee on the Nazi.
And then memes is there. What's up, memes?
Hi Uzi, thank you for shilling. Thank you, honey.
Oh. Yeah, thanks to everybody for shilling. Like I said, we just kind of wanted to do for everybody that's just joining. Me and Ray just watched this. Plus, I had some interesting Twitter conversations that ended up evolving around this whole stream by Bret Weinstein with a bunch of black intellectuals. And we just got done watching and was like, let's talk about it now.
Right.
And Ray agreed. And then and we drug Atima in here because for doing this bullshit on my channel, which might not be the case going forward. We don't know yet. I wanted Timmy to be part of it.
Yeah, sorry. I've been arguing with an autist and a 13-year-old all day, and they're two different people. I'm A little slow on the uptick right now, but I'm trying to keep up, guys. And I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to watch a video because, like I said, I've been arguing with an autist and a 13-year-old all day.
All right. So, and something else that was discussed was the concept of some type of financial solution, whether it would be through reparations. Weinstein posited towards the end that it be just some type of resource focus in lower economic areas, right, to provide more opportunity of upward mobility, right.
Yeah, because there's a whole lot of logistical issues with, over 100 years after the practices have been outlawed on trying to offer reparations. It's just the what's the word I'm looking for? It's a genetic dilution or a hereditary dilution is too great. I think that's the term I'm looking for. So whatever, there's a specific term I can't think of right now, but there's just no way to pull it off without doing it at a resource level. But I don't even see how. Somebody please explain to me how reparations is going to fix anything.
It's not, and that's kind of like what everybody else was pointing out is that there were like the two of the speakers were talking about some type of different kind of conceptualized reparations. I think that Chloe, who what I liked about what she had to say was that there's a spiritual problem that's at the root of this shit too. I totally agree with that. But she was saying it would be more like a trust, like set up some type of reparation trust depending on the person. And Uzi and I started talking about, well, how much are you going to decide, like what percentage of African American is this person? Right? Are we going to start doing the paper bag testing again or some shit?
What was interesting?
Well, that's what I kind of want to know, because like my family is a freed slave and a guy that was disowned from the family that held her, and they got married and had kids. So what the fuck? Am I supposed to pay myself reparations?
Yeah, so actually kind of going back to the stream, which I know you didn't watch it, Timma, but these things came up. So you had actually only one person was really in favor, which was the lady on the stream, which I'm sorry I don't know their names because most of these people were brand new to me. But she was actually talking about how we could do this in a way that was very, like, you could actually try to just track it back to people that were actually affected. And they said it would be no different than when we gave reparations to the Japanese after putting them in internment camps for World War II. And a lot of people jumped on and said, no, it's a different situation, because one of the problems is that whenever America did that, they were able to identify specific people that were affected by the internment camps and give them reparations. Right? It wasn't that they went back to their ancestors and so forth.
Right, they had lists of people that had been interred.
Well, and
there was records. There were actual physical records.
Well, and even some of the other people that weren't actually super cold to the idea of reparations brought up a point that I think all of us kind of understand, which is you can give reparations to people, but it doesn't change the how wealth generation is going to work in the future, right? It's the best explanation I can give is I think almost everybody here knows that you can write people a check, just like if they win the lottery, but that doesn't fix the underlying issues of their financial circumstances, which is why a lot of lottery winners go broke.
Yeah, because they have no idea how to use the money they have, and they don't understand what taxes are. Yeah.
And then there's always this disagreement about what to do, and this is once again I'm going to be the mouthpiece for Glenn Loury. Is that it comes down to two basic institutions which have been being used as like a tool to try to manipulate society, and that's through education and through police, right? And then they started talking about education being like the way that it's established right now, the way that I mean, think about it. Right? So you've got like 3 generations of people that have come through with this systemic mindset that John Werder was talking about in the McWhorter was talking about between the 60s and the 80s, right? Which was that black identity thing. And, and they started talking about, well, school has to look like something that's going to be more engaging for people. And, and then that gets into another fucking huge ball of wax in its own, right? So he kind of wanted to keep it focused on the idea of blackness, and Weinstein, I think, correctly stated a fear that this was going to get hot, and I don't mean in a sexy way.
No, it's going to get hot because it's very personal. You're telling people that they are responsible for things they had nothing to do with.
Right. And then there was, I could tell there was like some type of typical country people thing going on there. Did you catch that, Excel? Like there's like all these rednecks out with a shitload of guns that are, going to start shooting black people.
No, yeah,
or defending, right?
Hold on, that was a point Coleman Hughes brought out, which is they had this false narrative that there's a whole bunch of rednecks and cops with guns going out there trying to hunt down black people, and he said it was untrue.
Oh, okay. Thank you, because I was going to say what?
I know.
Okay, as long as like the smart people within the black cultural identity movement recognize that shit, I guess I'm not too threatened. I don't know. Like, I get nervous when you have like all a specific race panels for anything, because I feel like we're all going to start talking about world domination or some shit.
Well, I think the guy Weinstein specifically left out certain people that would probably want to be part of this conversation, just for the fact that they tend to make it this hyperbolic thing and hijack it, and it becomes people talking over each other and shit. These people actually listened to each other and they waited. The couple of people were like, kind of chomping at the bit at times. I recommend it. I think anybody that's kind of that's plugged into what's going on right now needs to get a serious view of this mindset, which I was really, I left it with a positive kind of feeling. Okay. Not everybody's a shithead out there. That there are actually, and I'm not talking about black people, man. I'm talking about people, because BLM is there's just as many white people now that and they from what I'm seeing, they're doing the most of the violence.
Yeah, actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna let you go, because what I'm about to say is it's gonna be a nice runoff.
I was gonna say it's all regional for what the races are of the people in the groups. In Portland, it's physically impossible to have a majority black anything and have white people involved in it. There's just not enough black people in Oregon. It's a really small amount of the population that's black up here, and it's a fairly sparsely populated state. So I think a lot of it, in like, there's only a couple areas in Washington state where there's like a large amount of black people too. So I think that has a lot to do with it. That it's like, it's not being portrayed very well.
What my mind kept going to is the fact that what's going on here is this is all a fucking hand job.
Yep.
This whole deal, it's to divert our attention away from what's not going on, which is our fucking government elected officials are picking their noses and picking their asses and stealing us blind, and they want to keep it that way, and they don't care if we start killing each other, because we're just a bunch of fucking ants to these people. And it's really disturbing that we have this ruling class that's pretty fucking entrenched now. And I'm starting to sound like a communist, but but it's like, hey, there's a problem there. and I don't have a quick solution to any of this shit.
Real quick. I'm gonna take you back because my answer to what you said. No, I don't have a quick solution to any of this shit. If I had a quick solution, I wouldn't be actually willing to stream something I actually hate doing. It turns out, but I want to talk about these issues. But a thought that came to my mind was, I think people like us that are very libertarian minded, at least in this this interpersonal way, it's really easy for us to sit there and talk about. I can look at the black community and say there's all these problems with single fatherhood and that other cultural problems. I could even get into the race and IQ issue and not change my mind that none of these conversations to me mean anything about any individual I would ever interact with. Because at the end of the day, from a libertarian mindset, it's individual actions that choose, and that's how you would look at people. When I talk about people as a demographic, it's something that's kind of benign to me. I don't necessarily care about the demographic as well as every individual's ability in any given system, if you want to call it, to succeed. I hope it made sense there.
Yeah, you did.
Well, actually, I can expand on it a little bit further as to why I think that's a good point. Okay. I think kind of what happened is a lot of people that have more, what I would say, like liberal sensibilities, where they kind of want to see equality for everybody. In the 1960s and 70s, right, we made a lot of progress on that, and it wasn't perfect, but we made more progress as time went on. And what their thought was, for some reason, which I don't, if you look at the actual economic thought writers, of course you wouldn't necessarily think this would happen, but removing the barriers to them was supposed to be, we're going to see this equality of outcomes across the board. And when they didn't see it, all of a sudden this critical social justice bullshit popped up. And instead of confronting the complex issues, which is the stream we just watched, which what they were trying to confront, they tried to make it back to an easy issue, which is racism.
Right. Well, and you know, there's a human factor here that people, you know, are not factoring into these ideas here, is that no matter what social structure we have, there's always going to be people that are going to want and take more than what's theirs, and there's going to be people that fall through the cracks. And it's up to the, you know, to the people, you know, that are in between the extremes, to, you know, to like to help the people, right? And the church used to be a perfect place to do that.
Yeah, until the welfare state.
Exactly.
Yeah, the reason that we can't have that conversation anymore is because they've replaced the word equality with equity now. So now the expectation is everybody has to have the same outcome.
Exactly. Which is impossible.
Yeah, well, and it's actually extra more fucked up because their idea of equity, it's not about any individual having equitable outcomes. It's about people that are good representatives of these identity groups that they've defined. I mean, they define loosely, but if you look at the literature, you can actually see that this loose definition they try to make facially is bullshit, because they make it very rigid upon these gender, sex, and racial identity groups. They want to see them all have equal outcomes, which has just never happened in the course of human history, right? Because every identity group, as far as you could possibly draw them, you could make gamers an identity group, and you're going to see a lot different results if you just define gamers versus the rest of the population, based on whatever economic or sociologic standard you want to make it by. I mean, disparity is the norm in human society, is what I'm getting at.
Absolutely. Disparity is what makes humans better.
Yeah, there's kind of a Darwinian thing going on there too. Right. It has to do with the evolution societally.
You can't carry this much dead weight and not expect it to have some sort of negative side effect.
Right. I mean, we're talking literally billions of people.
Yeah.
And even though we look like ants to Nancy Pelosi and to what's his name, the Republican dude, just insert name there. I can't remember the guy's name. But so there we go. It's I'm losing my mind.
I know. I'm trying to keep up here, and this is hard because the chat is going off about how shitty the West Coast is, and we're talking about how shitty racism and reparations and the causticness of this whole thing is. So it's kind of hard to keep up with everybody. Trying though.
Well, Sunrise has got a point though. You can't change the culture. You have to. It has to begin within. And I think that's what the girl was going for, was that the only way to do that successfully with the with our articulating ability is to do that through like spiritual means and through self-reflection, I think.
Well, you have to be able to create it voluntarily, because if you don't create it voluntarily, it turns into animosity. And without the voluntaristic aspect, it's like there's a truth that I don't think we hear often enough, and it's that you cannot legislate morality.
Yeah. And also the destruction of the ego is a very important thing for spiritual growth.
Yeah, I mean,
failure is necessary.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just going back to legislating morality. Another thing that kind of came up into my head was apparently I'm supposed to sit here and pretend that people like Jared Taylor, for example, a white nationalist, he's definitely a racist, right? I have to sit here and pretend that he is more of a threat to me, and even if I was black, he's more a threat to me than these other people that want to employ the state to illegalize my thoughts, right? Or punish me for things I do with my own property, my own self. When people like Jared Taylor are just sitting there saying, like, we just kind of want to fuck off and be racist alone, right? We don't want to hurt anybody else. And I have to think that the idea of being racist is the worst fucking thing ever. So not only are they redefining racism to something that is way broader than I would ever accept, but they're also trying to make me think that just like I said, again, people like Jared Taylor or Richard Spencer with his cardigan that has no political power whatsoever, and everybody objects, is a bigger, well, like I'm saying, he's a bigger problem than this crazy critical social justice thing that wants to infiltrate every single institution in America that I could possibly have any respect for and turn it upside down.
God damn it, brain! Come on, hold a thought for more than 3 seconds here. Jesus.
Well, hold on. Do we want to recruit some help? I'd be fine too, because I said we'd go for an hour. We got another 20 minutes left at least. But I can't create invites to your channel. So if you want to post your Discord link into this channel, which by the way, maybe not. Like, right, we haven't decided. But me and Atima's streams on these concepts might move to Irate's channel because I don't give a shit about my channel at all.
And I don't have the time to like resurrect my channel right now. I don't.
Yeah, I just don't care about mine. These are fun conversations that are gonna die when they die.
Right.
But Irate's going for the long haul, which is why I brought it up to him.
Well, not necessarily the long haul. I'm just trying to stay as long as I can.
Right? Whatever, dude. You're my godfather of YouTube, dude. You've been going on for so long.
Far out, man.
Or I'd rather be on a beach naked, man. Sorry.
You were like I remember whenever like me and Tom Pino were trying to do our thing. We only had like, I don't know, like 60 subs. and you had like 450 and you invited us on. We just thought that was the greatest opportunity ever, man. I love you, dude.
Oh man, appreciate that. And it was interesting that there was a consensus that a lot of this fucking thought is coming from just a handful of black scholars.
It's not even. No, it's not even black. It's
yeah.
It's a very specific segment of scholarship, and I told the story. I think it was Saturday about how this scholarship actually intervened into my own work. Somebody from the Belonging Council, when we had this conversation, it was a kind of like a town hall meeting, but between our own kind of smaller group within my company. And at first it was fine, right? Like what they were talking about with belonging and even race issues. They were talking about it in a way that was very conducive to a work environment. Even some of the things that were said very early on by this person, I was okay with, right? Like pronouns, for example. Personally, I think any pronoun besides he or she is stupid. However, if like I'm at work and somebody wants to be called some different pronoun, like I'm not gonna make a big deal of it. I'm just gonna go along. It doesn't matter that much to me.
Right. So what happens when it comes down to you have to say it, or else you're gonna have like legal problems.
Yeah. So that's where I have a line. But they were saying it in this interpersonal way. But this person went further, which is a way where, like, all of a sudden, I wouldn't want to be respectful to your pronouns, because they went on a long spiel with impunity in a corporate environment about how, look, if you grow up in America, you've been socialized in this way that's very patriarchal and very racist, and like, look, I mean, I'm white, so I'm racist. And thank you, Object of Hate, for the $1. My shit's working again. Thank you.
Nice.
And she just kind of went on with impunity for about like 10 minutes on her little spiel. And a lot of people just that were kind of talking and having this conversation about things. I mean, some of these things were that they were talking about were things I agreed with, where you judge people on the quality of their work and not other kind of more obscure things. They kind of talked about this whole idea of professionalism, and I say this in an office space where nobody fucking sees you outside the other people in your office, right? My work already has a very lax policy. You can wear jeans and a t-shirt. It's
right.
It's not that big of a deal, even though we work in a corporate office building that's very expensive downtown where I live. But they were just kind of saying, like, look, don't have this policy and then judge somebody that likes wearing jeans and a t-shirt to work, to sit there and work at their desk and does good work. Don't think they're less professional than the guy that just wears a suit but sucks at their job. You know what I mean?
Right. It's the whole idea behind that business casual, and you know.
Well, okay, so they're trying to undo meritocracy?
No. I don't think my job was trying to do that. But I do think that one person in the Belonging Council that brought up this whole crazy thing about anti-racism, not only do I think they were out of line for any corporate environment, but I also felt that I had no place to look good without being punished for opposing them at that time.
Yeah, it's well, at your workplace, it's kind of hard to figure out how to temper that, with something like, I respectfully disagree that, using racial identity to create comfortable workspaces for people is the best thing. You should probably talk to the people about like what they find comfortable, not create stereotypes based off of what they look like.
Real quick, Object of Hate, $1. Streamlabs is being a terrible bitch tonight. Sinrise, $5. I just want to say, nigger.
Daddy, no.
I'm so not racist that I'm not going to temper myself about whether or not it's racist to read that.
Why would it be? I want to say the word because I can't say the word, so I'm going to say the word. There's fuck all no context or intent there to subscribe any kind of hate. It's just natural human rebellion. It's a sign of a working frontal lobe.
Well, it's like that whole Joe Rogan skit where like just saying the word sparks, like explaining why the word is dangerous, sparks anger and creates danger for the person that says it.
Object of hate, hop in the green room, man.
So,
fuck. Oh yeah, this is not my Discord. Saturday News Raids.
Object's a good boy. Mm-hmm. I've never seen him do anything too terribly overt. Yeah. I've seen him just be really smart and have a lot of extra information. And I'm like, how do you have so much time to acquire all this stuff, man?
I will say if I was on somebody else's channel, I would probably temper myself just a little bit when it comes to saying words like that. But I don't give a shit because this is just happy fun times for me.
That's right. That's right.
The happy fun. The birthday party!
Yay!
Follow Kanye.
Mm.
Sorry. I'm having a hard time with Kanye running for president. His party is the birthday party. And Elon Musk is his advisor. So
why not? Did you see Elon Musk passed what's his name? Warren Buffett today? His
wealth is more than Warren Buffett's?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
Hello.
Welcome, Object.
Warren Buffett's here?
What?
You said Warren Buffett, and it's like, oh, there he is. And I was like, Warren Buffett's here?
Oh.
No, I'm not Warren Buffett. I wish I was. Thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. Welcome. Welcome to my humble abode.
Yes, first time I get to speak to you, Irate, and I think maybe the first Temo as well, actually.
No, we've streamed a couple of times together. It's just been a couple of years.
Oh yeah, that must be it.
Oh my god, dude, that makes me feel. I was actually looking, like, because I was going back to how long me and since me and P-Noise first streamed. And it's like it's been over 2 years now. That's awesome. I'm old.
Yeah.
No, you're not. 2 years on the internet?
Yeah, 2 years on the internet is like 70 years, dude. Like, it's a long time.
I'm fucking Methuselah because there's accounts for me from like 1989.
Mm.
Oh, well done. You beat me by 8 years then.
I mean,
yeah.
1990. Sorry, 90, not 89. 90. I had turned 12.
Anyway, Object, I'm sure that we talked about a whole bunch of shit that you have strong opinions on, so go.
Okay, so reparations. Reparations need a change in the economic system to work, according to the people that come up with this garbage. That probably means taking a large, either a one-time tax or a permanent tax hike on the middle class and up from there. And middle class will mean anyone who's not black. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what your economic situation is. They're going to take it. And to do that, they need to change all the laws on, which basically means you're making equity happen at a systemic level. So maybe it's time to leave the United States if Biden wins.
Oh yeah.
Well, no. So Object. What you just said there was way more thought into how reparations is going to work than what I hear from most critical theorists demanding reparations.
Yeah, but I've been listening to other reparations people as well.
Yeah, because like if you force them into making the answer, they will come up with some answer, and they're almost always untenable. But for the most part, what I've noticed from this very specific line, which me and Atima have been trying to address on my stream, which is critical social justice, they're kind of devoid of any sort of real economic theory. Right? Like, I've said it plenty of times. Like, they're step 1, disrupt and dismantle. Step 2, step 3, equity.
Yeah, it's disrupt and dismantle. Step 2.
I can tell you what step 2 is. Step 2 is Zimbabwe.
Well,
Zimbabwe Zimbabwe applied this.
Yeah,
Zimbabwe
once again,
as a basket case.
Yeah, once again, I'm using their words, right? Not what I would assume would happen. Because I think you're right.
Well,
but at the same time,
they do.
They have a very devoid step 2 in that whole 3-step process of how you achieve equity.
Well, okay, so you have a group of people that keep talking about power dynamics. They haven't named what power is. Where is the definition of power, Excel?
Your skin color.
That goes back to our first stream where we talked about postmodernism and how they viewed everything in not only hierarchies, but they looked specifically at binary hierarchies and tried to dismantle them.
That doesn't answer my question. That's not power. What is?
Well, no. I mean, they would say whoever's at the top of the hierarchy as defined based on whatever theory they came up with.
That's not power. What is power? Power can be something that generates movement in something else, or generates movement within itself, as far as we know it. They don't know what power is. They have this amalgamous idea of what power is, and it's how they feel about a situation. There's no definition to their premise.
Well, and that's why it's so
hold on. There is a definition to their premise, and we can go over that, but their definition is bullshit, which is kind of what I've been hammering through with having these streams, like especially the first one. Second one didn't go, like the one we had last Saturday did not go that well. It's my fault. I got a little bit too drunk, and I invited more people on stream than needed to be. We needed to dissect the issues a lot longer before we invited a panel discussion in.
Yeah, I think so.
Let me ask you, all right, Tima and Excel, especially, and Object maybe. Would you guys be willing to look at the Yuri Bezmenov lecture or lectures and talk? There's a lecture where he does everything right and he touches on everything, and then there's a series of lectures where he takes each stage of the KGB or the socialist agenda that was trying to transform the United States.
So Snugs, real quick, actually, somebody in the chat said Snugs Maleo says they think power is money. But I don't think that's true.
No, they don't. It's more than that.
Power is how they feel in a situation.
Like the biggest reason
I don't even think there's literally a power that you can look to and say, "Oh, that's power." It's how they feel about themselves in the situation is how they determine what is and is not power.
Yeah, and the biggest reason I don't think they believe that, and I would have to go back and find the streams about it, but they're training critical social workers to teach their poor white homeless people about how, well, look, you have privilege because you're white, so on and so on. So obviously there's more to it than just the economic outcomes of things or where somebody stands economically. They definitely put way more on a race and the group category you should fall into than they do actual monetary situations.
It's because they don't understand how the system works.
And hi, Sunrise.
Then that's hi. It's because they don't understand how the system works. They have a very childish, simplified view of how they think society and economics and our whole society, how everything works. They have a very poor understanding of how laws are made, or how to make money, why work ethic is important, a bunch of things that you're supposed to learn when you're young, usually from your dad. And they just think that, oh, white people just have power, and they make all the laws to favor white people, and that's it. Like they just have a very limited understanding of how anything works, and what they see, they feel powerless because they think that it is somehow just this magical, like you wave your wand and money starts going into your bank account.
Well, and a lot of that comes from the way critical theories work in general, is that they look at the way things are now and the system it is now, they criticize it and they find problematics. And what that does is it makes it devoid of the story from where it came from to begin with.
Right.
Right? Like, it makes it so that you're not telling the story from, when America was founded in 1776, a lot of people had these amazing ideas of what it would be like to be free people, but we still had slavery. Then we got rid of it, but then we were racist. And then we go back to the same liberal principles, and we're like, Jim Crow's wrong, we need to get rid of that. And we go back to the same liberal principles, and we're like, let's have the civil rights movement, and so on and so on.
Well, people keep talking about power, and you're right. I don't think anyone who focuses on that could really explain in certain terms what that means. Like, what do you mean power? You know, it's not like Superman. It's not like power to just do whatever you want. It's not something you have. It's something you take. It's something you do. You know.
Well, yeah, and it especially in your Twitter discourses, they're gonna use that in a way that is so just vapid at its core,
right?
To say that this group has power, and I was like, this group, like, there's tons of individuals that you're encompassing, and what you're saying does not apply to every single one of them.
They're seeing patterns that are there, but not for the reasons they think. Like, if you see, if you live in a particular area and it's a poor neighborhood, there happens to be a lot of black people there, you may observe a lot of poor black people and just think that that's how all black people are. And you're seeing a pattern. You're just drawing the wrong conclusions. You're not taking a wider view. You don't understand how anything works, and that's a lot of people just have a very myopic view of things. They kind of see the immediate world around them, and that's reality for them, and they don't really make much of an effort to learn about the wider world.
And hold on, Sinrise.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'll make this point very succinctly. Sinrise, what you just said is exactly what social justice warriors will say, but if you make that observation, then you are racist for making the observation.
Oh, I know. I've heard all that. And again, it's just an excuse. It all comes down to that for me. You're either making excuses for why you don't have what you want, or you're getting what you want.
Well, it's mainly because most of these people have been taught the story from the middle. They started in the middle. They've ignored the entire beginning.
Or they are completely ignorant of it.
Or the end. Like, it doesn't actually make any sort of rational sense if you look at all the information as a whole and tell the story from a timeline that most liberal people would make sense of. I think that's part of the reason why critical theories even calls itself an anti-liberal ideology. And once again, hashtag take back the word liberal. I'm done giving it up.
I never did give it up.
Yeah, I'm done. I did at one point, but I'm done.
Yeah, just call them progressives. That's what they are.
I call them leftists.
No, I won't even call them progressives. Right? Because even like early progressivism was an offshoot of liberalism. It adhered to certain liberal principles. They threw it all out the fucking window. I'm done.
Marxist is a good
Well, in
term.
Europe, progressive means Marxist.
No, it's as Marxist as fascism is Marxist. This is another thing. This is another. Well, hold on. This is another thing. This is another thing. Me and Tim have tried to hammer home. Is that simply calling them Marxist or Stalinist or something It's not enough. It's something different.
Too much credit.
Well, no, yes, it is. It is. It is. No,
Oh.
Sinrise, you're right. It is giving them too much credit because old school Marxists will not agree that they're Marxist.
Right? They don't understand Marxism any better.
Plus, you're missing all the green element to this. There's what you're not seeing is that behind a lot of this critical theory, where it's heading now. With the Green New Deal stuff that's being thrown into this, they're throwing all this cultish level. It's like a religion of the earth has to be saved at any cost, and we're going to use this language that they made up on the left for critical theory to hammer it in, and they view power as a way of anything. Power can be made to save the planet, or it can be made to destroy the planet.
Yeah, I see this all as like a big attempt to create an opportunity for a cash grab by some greedy motherfuckers, man.
Yeah, that's going to be most of it, I think.
It's going to be a power grab.
Well, no, actually,
by private security forces.
I think right now, I don't think the people that are like the diehard believers are thinking that way. But I think a lot of the bandwagoners. One of the best examples I saw recently is that by next year, gender transition therapy in the medical field is going to be a $1.5 billion industry.
Yeah. Oh my God!
And that comes from something that me and Atima haven't even gotten to yet. Like we have barely touched about gender theory.
Stephen Crowder has a lot of good stuff on that. Talking about the greed the transition doctors, whatever they call them. Yeah.
Sinrise, the problem with Stephen Crowder, which is the same reason that me and Tima decided to do this, is he does not do a very good job of addressing the ideas as from where they come from. And that's what I want to do, is to address them where they come from. And it's not that no, I get that. And I get it across the board. It's a lot of it's really fucking complicated, and I'm not doing the heavy lifting here. I've told Atima from the get-go, I'm following the New Discourses people, which Sinrise, have you watched them at all? You know what I'm talking about yet?
The grievance study, grievance study professors.
Yeah, they're the grievance studies professors, but they've gone on to make a more like a rigorous framework for opposing critical social justice. But what I'm trying to do is, what I want to do with Atima specifically, because you were the first person interested, Sinrise, you would be interested too, is to take what they're saying and fight it on their own words, or at least be able to cite it. At least be able to cite it whenever we're having these conversations,
and distill it so that you can speak about it with confidence.
Yeah.
For dum-dums too, like, we are not academic professors here. Like, actually, we're all smart. When I say dum-dums, I just mean like we are allowed to have opinions. This is the whole YouTube discourse thing. We're allowed to have opinions based on the limited time we have to devote ourselves to researching these issues, right? We don't have to be the scholars that were on Bret Weinstein stream for this conversation to happen between us.
Yeah, and we don't have to be scholars to sit here and have this conversation in a fashion that makes sense to several other people at the same time. See, that's the thing. I really like Helen Pluckrose does a really good job of making the information relatable. Peter Boghossian does a really good job of bridging the gap for communication. James Lindsay does a really good job of translating. So they all have three different, I guess it's the more of like, I guess, a three-pronged approach that they're using holistically, and it really does make the information really digestible.
Well, and to add to that, so people like Bret Weinstein are not devoid of what, like, he's good friends with James Lindsay, right?
I know, my God, Bret Weinstein makes me sleepy when I listen to him.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, there's a wide range of people that are at least tangential to what James
This
Lindsay's
is a
doing.
growing movement. This is a growing thing.
Yeah.
Like what they started a fire with those grievance study papers. They lit a fire, and it's spreading. And it's actually spreading pretty quickly considering how slow academia usually moves. So I have to say
I still think it's really sad that kind of like 5 years after, a lot of people, especially on YouTube, right, like your random YouTubers, kind of had this intuition that this social justice stuff was bullshit, and they would make videos mocking it. I think their failure, though, was to never understand where it was coming from. I know Sargon later came to fruition, but like, look at Chris Raygon. Even look at people that we were friends with that we disagree with now because of apparently they've turncoated. Like even Jeff Holiday and Sophie were
I know the guy on a personal fucking level, dude.
Yeah, we're against this stuff, and all of a sudden they're not on our side anymore, which I think is kind of a sad loss. I think that if there were just a little bit more intellectual rigor as to where it was coming from, and a little more intellectual rigor as to what was being opposed, I think they might not be where they are today.
I'm sorry, but Jeff Holiday lacks the intellectual rigor to do so.
Maybe.
I agree. Okay, so I agree with some of his premises for the stuff he said about biology. But the way he broke things down and the way he misrepresented the opposition he was tearing apart, there's not a lot of intellectual integrity there.
Look, we could take their names out of it completely, and
I'm saying that's kind of endemic of the group, though. If you look at it, though, just look at the group of people that have been breaking stuff down and trying to debunk things from, I guess, about 2014 up until 2018. We had this group of people who used a lot of really big words to try to break things down. And we found out, and Crout and T showed us quite heavily how some of these people are not educated and were pretending to be, which was kind of a boon. But at the same time, he got used to being assumed as a scholar or an academic, and he stopped doing the rigor. So there were a group of people that got comfortable debunking without doing a lot of work because it's not really hard to take apart feminism. So they got used to breaking down low-hanging fruit arguments, and they never applied the rigor that they got out of the habit because the arguments got thinner and thinner and thinner. And then all this, the arguments were gone, and it was nothing but emotional shit.
I completely agree with you. And the only thing I'm going to go back to, the point I was trying to make, is they also failed at every level to show where this was actually coming from, other than just making fun of it, right?
Well, epistemology takes time. And when you're dealing with postmodernist writing, Irate can attest to this.
Once again, I have to correct you, because it's not postmodern.
Okay,
it's not critical. It's not critical theory. No, I don't actually disagree with you there.
For the statement I'm going to make, and that's that the writing is dry and tongue in cheek, and you have to reread it and try to figure out what the subtext is, because there's obviously there's a subtext you're supposed to get from it that isn't overt, that these people get because they aren't reading it from a critical thinking standpoint. They're reading it from an emotional one. So you end up having to do twice the work. If you're anyone that uses any kind of Socratic rigor of any sort, you're going to get frustrated with it.
All right.
And epistemology for something as shitty as this stuff, it's worse than doing chemical epistemology for petrochemicals used in the ancient times.
Unrelated mostly, but isn't it bullshit how they call themselves critical theories in their own writings? But whenever you think of the word critical, when it comes to academia, you think of critical thinking, and they have nothing to do with each other at all.
Well, it's more that, that whole almost 1984-ish, word speak, right? Or double speak. Newspeak, yes. Thank you. It's double plus good.
Yeah. Well, I call them Trojan horse words, which they made all of the words that we know as Trojan horses.
Yeah, bait and switch, basically, as they did with the word racism.
Yep. Yeah. It's a bait and switch. It's I mean, I had that conversation earlier where somebody called
funny?
somebody called me a racist, added me to a list of that he made of racist people, and then went and looked at it. It was basically like, I don't know, like Bret Weinstein, James Lindsay, and then some other people that I thought like had some really good fucking points. I even replied back to him and I said like, you better be careful. Like, you're making this list and adding people to it. Like, they're gonna read it and you're just gonna see a whole bunch of logic that refutes your points. But yeah, like, it is very doublespeak like, at least.
That's kind of the entire. It has to be doublespeak in order to work because there's no rational functionality to it. Well, it was never intended to work. Okay, so the whole concept behind this entire thing was I'm pissed I didn't get my way during World War II and now I'm going to bitch and moan about it. Literally.
The people that you're hearing bitching don't even understand World War II. They're just a bunch of college kids who've been told what to think and what to say.
I'm talking about the original authors.
They're out there, out there crying about racism, saying, "Oh, it's power plus privilege."
Yeah,
they don't know what that means either. You know.
So actually, Tim actually made a highbrow comment whenever she was talking about the World War II thing.
It must have gone.
Well, no, it didn't go over your head because nobody should possibly be expected to understand this. But to lay it out is so.
Are we talking about the outcome of the Soviet Union conquers everything, or are we talking about the outcome of the Nazi Germany conquers everything?
We're talking about how we went from 1930 to this critical social justice idea of now. And the way it came about was the critical theorists of the Frankfurt School, which I think everybody identified very accurately.
I thought it was so funny, though, that people like Noam Chomsky were like saying, you know, it's almost like intellectually they'll dance to the fucking edge of the cliff, right? But when the horde is behind them, fixing to push them off, they're like going, no. Well, hold on now. We need to rethink this shit, right? It's interesting to see what academia, how they're responding to this shit.
Actually, I'm gonna give Noam Chomsky a little bit of credit for being one of the better leftists. Well, no, he is a commie piece of shit. What I was trying to say to Sunrise and Object, if I'm wrong on any of this, even people in the chat, like you can disagree. So what happened is you had the critical theorist of the Frankfurt School that came over here from Germany in like the 30s and 40s, and they were disillusioned Marxists. Right, and they kind of invented this whole idea of cultural Marxism, which was the pejorative we used for a long time, that got dismissed in a lot of academia, especially media, as some sort of they called it a conspiracy theory. But those ideas were real, and it came through. Later on, you had the postmodernist, which they were even more heavily focused on power structures. They actually decided that all knowledge is subjective. And some of what came out of the postmodernist resonates with me that I don't disagree with.
One of a rational, intelligent person could think that.
Well, no. So the
it's amazing.
Something that came out of Foucault, which was a very postmodernist thinker. He said that what is true is whatever the power structures that tell you what is true is true. Now, whether that reflects reality or not misses the point.
Yes.
And in that, like, I just think of that idea in my head, and I'm just like, I don't disagree with that. And some people that defend the postmodernists, they weren't prescriptive. They were actually so fucking anti-establishment. They're like, fuck, we would never tell anybody what to do. Like, it's just us ranting about things. But I thought that was a fairly true statement, but they take it to this extreme now with critical social justice that includes postmodernism thought, where they think all knowledge is subjective and that there's no value in objective truth. Or less, actually, no value is incorrect. It would be the value and the idea of what like liberal societies would call objective is no more valuable than any other knowledge system that any other culture or group or intersectional whatever the fuck could come up with.
I mean, that just seems pointless to me. The proof is in the pudding. Like, what is a society accomplished? That's what means something, not the theory, not like your ideas are more valuable. Well, if your ideas produce something, then they're more valuable. If they didn't, then who gives a shit what your ideas were? That's what that means to me. No, there's no idea has inherent value. It's whether or not it amounts to anything.
Object of Hate, you posed a really interesting question, and I think I already know the answer. It does make you wonder how the Frankfurt School guys didn't get deported during McCarthyism, because they didn't. No, they denounced communism because it already failed. All they were doing was bitching about not getting their way.
Yeah, when people call them post-Marxist, I think that's accurate.
Yeah,
they weren't actual Marxists, but they did. I actually kind of look at it more like it as revisions of Marxism, right? It was just another revision of Marxism that we hadn't seen before.
Overeducated shitheads.
I like that one.
Yeah. But I have because knowing some of the Cold War history. In the UK, MI5 had a service that looked into subversion, which is exactly what is happening right now.
Yes.
And that service was maintained all the way until the end of the Cold War, and then it disappeared. Now, I'm wondering, when the FBI must have had a service, a unit operating on that as well, because you wouldn't have been able to break it, take down the weather underground and all those people otherwise. Which means, which president decided to do away with protection from subversion? Because this stuff doesn't happen just like that. The deep state is aware of these theories, and they are usually watched when they can tell they're rising. They watch them very carefully and try to root them out. But this hasn't happened in the last 30 years, so something's wrong in the system.
Well, I know that a lot of the machinations for communism or the Cold War were torn down rather rapidly under Reagan and Bush. So I'm not sure. It kind of bothered me that a lot of the apparatuses were just quietly removed and nobody talked about it, which means that they probably weren't removed. They were just moved to a different location. However, the odd thing to me about that has always not been the Frankfurt School. It's been that everybody's always ignored China.
Yes, thanks to Nixon making a deal with China. China was granted immunity.
Well, and Kissinger, all right, so Kissinger thought that doing this and like exposing them would create Tiananmen Square, and then it would push it over the edge, and they would become more and more right. But they called their fucking bluff. The government, they knew that's what the deal was, and they were ready for Tiananmen Square.
Yeah,
they fucking killed a shitload of people.
They certainly did. But have you noticed you probably haven't watched the video by Vice President Pence. He has his Pence doctrine on China, which he calls a full government approach, which includes apparently they're looking now at closing down the Chinese cultural centers in academia. Now, I don't know how widespread those are.
They're very.
So those people could be financing all this rubbish.
Oh yeah,
it's strongly in their interest too.
Absolutely.
A&M has 4 or 5 different Asian heritage, and I think 3 of them are related to Chinese groups that do stuff on Texas A&M campus. And Texas A&M also works with Monsanto. So, yeah, I have no doubt that a lot of colleges are going to buck when that happens.
Well, it's certainly on the table now, so
It's probably going to happen. So
yeah, in the next couple of years, depending, although of course that depends if Trump gets reelected.
Well,
So
you got to
anyway,
vote, people.
Yes,
Yeah.
you all have to vote, all of you. And I'm
And-
still trying to convince people on my side in the States that they can't go with Biden, but that's going to be difficult.
Yeah. But I
Biden
got
is
a
filtered.
feeling there's going to be another coup shut down right before the election.
Oh, you
California
can
just
count.
locked down.
You
We'll
can
have
count
black
on the
votes everywhere.
Democrats pulling all kinds of shenanigans. Everything that they think, it's all going to fail too, just like everything they do.
Yeah,
Not wrong.
I was having a conversation about this earlier, but given that me and Irate were talking, like we plan on going for an hour max. We're almost on an hour and a half. We got 5 minutes left, so I'm not going to get into that.
No, we shouldn't.
However,
on another stream.
Yeah, so speaking of other streams, Irate, if you will go ahead and share your channel out to the chat on this YouTube, make sure everybody subscribes, especially if you're here for these conversations specifically. They might be on my channel further on, but you should also still subscribe to Irate.
Thanks, I appreciate that, man. Because I'm getting close to the 1K mark, and it would be a nice finger to the system.
It certainly would.
Should I just talk in like less coded language? I'll let you do it, Irate.
What do you mean?
I was just saying, we had a conversation, so I don't really care about growing my channel, right? Like, everybody that knows me knows I work with Pinoid. I've also had, like, an exorbitant amount of interest in these streams compared to my subscriber count. I don't care about my channel, but I do want to have these conversations, and it's kind of like what I said earlier. I want to have these conversations until I get bored of having them, right? And that might just stop sometime.
Right. And we're looking at maybe doing this on like Saturday nights.
Yep.
Because that seems the best opportunity. I know there's
Like
a shitload of stuff going on.
What? Yeah, I don't want to interrupt other people. Like Sinrise, I would love you to be able to be a guest or whatever. So I don't want to interrupt, especially your stream, which also I would love you to chill out.
Okay. And Irate, I'd actually love to have you on. I don't think you've ever come on the show.
I haven't, and I would love to be a guest.
I've been aware of you for a long time, but I had to admit I just joined your Discord. I thought I was on your Discord, but I wasn't. I definitely subscribe to your channel, and I check you out when I can. But
thanks.
It's usually right if what do you do it on Sundays in the afternoon? I'm usually doing other stuff, but I'm gonna try and make more of an effort to check you out. And, come on.
I love that Sunday show. Yeah. It's really weird. It's like, these are everything that I do on here are like fragments of my personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I try to make it as much me as I can because that's the only unique thing I got going.
But yeah, we're trying to grow. I mean, we're not trying that hard, but we would like to grow the channel. But I'll let you know before we go on Wednesdays at 7 Pacific. It's kind of our main slot, and then we try to do Saturday streams too. But
you try.
A lot of times it doesn't happen.
Wednesdays be good for me to guest on, man. That's a definitely doable thing.
By the way,
I'm supposed to do something with your boy Pat. I think this week or next week. I gotta hit him up. Yeah.
Hey, Sinrise, real quick. I would say I would have been more than willing to do this on the Insomnus channel if it wasn't for the fact that hey Timma, love you, boo. No, you actually just kind of took like an extra interest in what I was trying to say to begin with, which just kind of made it a natural fit because I think you have the same interest in the origins of all of this that I do.
I love digging deep into that stuff.
Well, and so, but a lot of people like initially, like when you say this, and I think this was our problem with our last stream, and this is nothing to say with you, Sunrise. But we had you in Tennessee Marine, and we couldn't even get through what we were trying to read on the writings of the actual people that are saying this nonsense, which is kind of a focus we're going to have. But Hopefully pretty soon on Irate's channel we'll come up with like a clever name. We'll do a little live stream with me and Timma being the lead-ins, and then other people will join in afterward. Kind of like this stream. This one actually went better than our last stream.
Well, I don't necessarily care.
Would you disagree with the Timma that this one went better than our last stream?
Way better. I didn't have to yell at anybody.
Yeah, this one just went better. I wasn't handing out fucking red cards and yellow cards.
I think we can all help each other. I think we can help each other grow our channels. You know what I mean?
As a team, I think maybe accelerated deconstruction might be a good name for these. And we'll use accelerate like your
maybe because you could just use the letter X R X L R number 8.
There you go.
And
accelerated.
Of course, I spell irate or
dumpster truck emoji colon.
There you go.
There we go.
Sunrise is a typo.
I sunrise.
It was sunrise, and I actually typed SI. I was like, oh, actually, that kind of looks cool.
Dude.
All right. Well, I haven't been reading, so if anybody in the chat has anything else to say, you have 1 minute to do so.
Fuck back!
Get the fuck back!
There is one thing though we're going to have to cover.
Thank you, Uzi.
We to go with this language. We need a language of opposition to go against all this because we need sledgehammers.
We have a language of opposition.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the goals of this deal.
Basically, everybody in media.
Yeah.
See, the thing about it is, Object. All they've done is made new words for old problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I think we need to bring back the word nigger.
I do. Dude, Clerks 2, Randall.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, like.
So hold on.
To take his power away, you know.
Urge everybody to watch that Weinstein.
Sons of Patriarchy.
I will watch it.
Yeah.
Sons of Patriarchy has something really good in the chat to say, which is, I always thought Excel was a euphemism for a friend of mine. Apparently I'm a euphemism. I used to think I was just a spreadsheet, but I've been upgraded to euphemism, so I'm good with that. Like, I think that's a compliment. Thank you, Sons of Patriarchy. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and hit in stream here because I don't think we have anything else going on with this conversation. I managed to thoroughly shut it down as needed to be because way longer than expected. But check us out. Make sure you subscribe to Irate Stream because who knows where me and Timma will be streaming next Saturday.
Timma's with me on Friday nights anyway.
Next Saturday night. And definitely check out Friday night on the Cream stream with Irate Prostate, which I also might show up to, which I cannot be a regular guest because I don't know if I'm going to be awake still when he goes live.
Right. There's kind of like this swelling and ebb and flow thing going on with the crew on that thing. So
also I wake up sometimes at 6 a.m. to go to work, and then I drink at night on Fridays. So when I get that drunk, sometimes I just want to go to sleep.
You've never passed out during a stream either, have you?
No, plenty of times, especially on your stream. And you're like, where did Excel go? I think I've actually said to you before, it's like, look, dude, if it's that late and you asked me to come on and I did it because I said I was going to come on, then there's a good chance that like maybe I got too drunk and fell asleep. Like, don't worry about me. Trust me, I'll be okay.
Yeah, man.
I don't think I've ever heard you snoring before. Maybe your mic's just not sensitive enough.
Yeah, my mic's not. Well, yeah, it's not. That's you won't. I have left the stream on 24/7, but usually the first thing I do when I'm just like, oh shit, they're talking about stuff still. Like, it's usually a very, very fucking quick instinct, and I'm dragging the stream on. I don't know why I am, but it's a very quick thing where I go from talking about and bullshitting with people. And like you're gonna know I'm drunk, but you're like, he's having a good time, so we're just gonna keep going too. Where the fuck did he go? Like that off switch is like it's a razor thin line between drunk and happy and Excel goes to bed.
Shit faced.
Yeah, it's not even shit faced. It's just like I just go to
bed. Straight to unconsciousness. Right?
I turn off.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that's what prevents me from being the worst type of alcoholic, is having this off switch. I get a certain level of drunk and I'm like, I'm tired and going to bed.
No, man.
Fuck everything that's going on.
When I do the off switch thing, when I drink, all right, 2 or 3 days later, I come out of it and people are fucking pissed off at me.
Yeah, mine's not like that. Mine's like, it's just that night.
I'm one of them alcoholics. So
then I wake up in the morning and I like do my job, and then I message you like at like 5 in the afternoon, being like, oh, look, I got done working, and that's what happened last night. So. But anyway, I'm totally hitting the in stream button. Thanks everybody again for joining. Make sure to sub to everybody who said to sub to. And I have no outro lines.